Welcome to From Head to Heart and Home. We are so excited to have you here and have you listening on our conversation as we talk about mulling over your misery with your hosts, Shanda Ceretti, Certified Transformational Coach, and Carla Center, Subconscious Healer and Relationship Coach. So, Shanda, let's talk about mulling in your misery.
Yeah. So the concept that we want to bring to you today is around perpetuating the things that we're going through, the things that we're experiencing, what we're feeling that is undesired. We don't want to be going through these things, feeling these things, but yet we are the ones that are fueling the fire, so to speak, right? We are mulling in our own misery. And there are lots of different ways that we do this. Some are very obvious, some are very sneaky. So hopefully, Carl and I can shine a light for you guys today in kind of finding out maybe what your coping strategy, what your technique, what your way of doing this might be, because we all have one. And so I will share that for some people, it might be as simple as talking about the thing over and over and over, right? Like really latching onto the story. So I was sharing with Carla before we hit record here, and the example that I will give you is that when I coach clients, sometimes my clients like to give me a lot of story and a lot of background. And there are times when that is super helpful, and there's times where it's necessary. And then there are times when it's not, right? So I want you to like think about when you share your story with people, what is the intention on sharing the story? Are you sharing the story to get people to buy in to how you feel and relate with you and agree with you? Like, are you looking for someone to back you up and say, yes, you're right? Right. So pay attention to what goes on there for you, because even just in sharing our stories with people, and especially the oversharing, it's one thing to vent and get it out of your system and be like, okay, it's out, I'm done, I'm good. It's another thing to keep bringing it up time and time again. So it's like thinking about something, talking about something versus taking the action to actually change it. So when we're sharing these stories with people, we need to be very cautious in the fact where it's like handing a baton to somebody in a relay race so that they can then carry that baton for you or run along with you and like chant the same chant, right? So this is all energy, right? It's all tying back to energy. So whatever we focus on grows. So if we're enrolling these people in our lives to be on board with us of how hard this thing is, how unfair this thing is, how poor me it is, then we're creating more of that energy and we're putting more of that energy out into the universe, right? And what we really want to do is get into the cleaning up energy, right? We want to clean things up. We don't want to perpetuate this and make more of it. I don't want storm clouds everywhere. I'm okay with 50-50, right? But I don't want them everywhere. I'd like to be able to step over here and it be a bright sunny day and step over here and it be stormy day, right?
I love that. And one of the things I ask clients to ask themselves when they're there, am I telling the story for validation
Right.
or am I telling the story for compassion
Mhm.
and support in growing past it,
Right.
getting through it, not to stay where I'm at? Because we have these thoughts, and unless we get past the thoughts that are got us here and are keeping us here, we're going to stay in the same spot. So if we're looking for validation, we're not going anywhere. We're just going to keep that energy that Shanda's talking about is just going to keep growing instead
Mm,
of transmuting it into something that we really want.
right.
We really want.
Yeah. Yeah. So think of what energy you're bringing to the table in the conversations that you're having, right? And they don't even need to be conversations you're having with people actually. They can be conversations that you have inside your own head with yourself. They could be thoughts, right? It could be a simple thought like I'm stupid. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. And you're just perpetuating this thought. You're mulling in that misery instead of being like, okay, I may have acted in a way where I'm experiencing feeling a little bit stupid. I'm not stupid, right? Not identifying with it. But what can I do to get out of that? How can I change that? Becoming resourceful. I think that's probably one of the biggest offerings that I would give today from my perspective is that, right? How can we be resourceful in taking the action to change the thing as opposed to being stuck in it and and feeding it our energy and other people's energy knowingly or unknowingly.
Right. And if you have those perpetuating and those racing thoughts, the thing to do is to stop, write it down, do something so that you can take a look at
Hmm.
it yourself. What are the thoughts that keep coming up for me? What are the things that I'm saying to myself, like the self-talk that Shanda was just talking about? What are the thoughts about other people? What are the things that are coming up so you can, from a non-judgmental perspective, look at it and say, this is what's coming up for me. These are the kinds of things I need to change because I don't like where I'm at. I don't want to
Hmm.
be here. I don't want to be in the same thought, feeling, energy I'm at. What's really going on with me? I appreciate when somebody supports me. I have to realize sometimes I'm looking for validation and not support.
Right.
And all of
Hmm.
us do that. All of us do that. And being like, okay, I'm looking for validation. What's going on in my mind? And possibly if I need support in this, who could I reach out to that's not just going to validate me, but really listen, have
Hmm.
compassion, and be honest with me about what they see.
Yeah, I wrote down it's going to take two things. It's going to take honesty and vulnerability. And guys, that is a theme. If you've been listening to us from day one, from day 40, doesn't matter. Honesty and vulnerability on this journey is like a prerequisite, right? And when you talk, Carla, about the validation versus support, I love that because if you guys listened to last week's episode, we were talking something along this line where we will get the proof we need to back up what we want to back up. Again, validation, right? So you will know the difference because when you feel validated, you will that person will be agreeing with you, you'll feel good, you'll be like, "Yep, I'm right," and you'll be in this I'm right mindset
Mhm.
versus if someone is supporting you, they're going to call you out and you might not like it. And that is where we get to have even more love and compassion for ourselves and so much love and compassion for that other person being willing to be uncomfortable to say the honest and true thing. Because think about this, everybody. How many times do you, as a friend or a partner or a parent, validate your loved one, your friend, your whoever, your partner? Just you appease them to make them feel good. And there's definitely a fine line, right? We don't always need to be like, well, right? Like, actually, like we're the know it all because that's not what it's about either. But it's about when we see something huge for somebody, like a big block that they're experiencing that's really affecting their life, we have the responsibility to share that. And it's scary and it's uncomfortable. And if you're able to walk yourself through that, like we were talking about last week, if you haven't listened, go back and listen. On the other side of that experience will be the opportunity for that relationship, whether it's with your child, with your partner, with a friend, you will be able to go deeper into that relationship and you will gain more trust and you will create more intimacy with that person. That is a win-win. Like, I love Carla so much because I'm like, she will call me out. And sometimes I'm like, mm, mm, I, I don't like that. Like,
Same
I did
here.
not like that. And then I'm like, hang on a second. This was for me, not against me. So be like, we learned a beautiful process when we went through leadership together, and it was about receiving feedback. And in order to receive feedback, it first of all takes practice, but you also need to be able to ask for feedback from people you trust, right? If you aren't in a good standing or a good relationship with somebody, you might not want to ask for their feedback at this point. Start with the people you really trust, right? To give you that honest feedback so that you know it's a gift and it's not against you, it's for you.
And you see how much deeper your connection is with people that you are able to be that vulnerable and share the feedback and receive the feedback with your partner,
Mm.
with your friends. Your your friendship deepens because, and your relationship, because you're willing to be vulnerable and also truly letting somebody see you outside of whatever masks that you put up. So
Mhm.
the part of the beauty in all of it is a deep connection in your relationships, because you're willing to be like, I don't need you to always make me feel like I'm right.
Right.
I want to share with you my growth.
Mm.
I want you to be able to share your growth with me, and we get to just each create this beautiful thing where we support each other.
Yeah, and it brings up the word authenticity.
Yes.
And this is no judgment or blame or shame on anybody. And I believe it's always something we're working on, no matter where you are in your journey, trying to be authentic, really embodying authenticity. It is not something that is a constant thing, because when fear shows up, doubt shows up, judgment shows up, insecurities show up, automatically we withdraw our authenticity. We don't say the thing, we withhold that because we feel uncomfortable. So it's like training your brain. Okay, if I was to be authentic in this moment, what would I say? And caveat is that there is a way, a come from, there's a way to say it, and there's a way to not say it. Right? We give feedback from a place of love. So you're never going to like shout at somebody and like, reprimand them. That's not feedback. That's criticism. Very different. Feedback
Right.
is from your heart. Feedback is like, I'm sharing this with you because I want to help your growth. I want to add value to your life. I don't want to make you feel any certain way. I want to give you this gift. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And because we have experienced criticism, we have this belief that when anybody gives us feedback, it is criticism. And
Totally.
so and so that's part of why we're looking for that validation, is because we don't want to receive criticism. When having honest communication creates such a beautiful energy in a relationship where you can feel like I can come to you with anything, and you are going to be loving, you're going to be compassionate, but honest as well. I don't have to sugarcoat anything that's going on with me. I can just be real with you, and you'll be real with me in a loving way.
Yeah, it's very, very different. And again, you know, we mentioned this last week too, around like society and what how we're trained. We're trained, like Carla said, to take feedback as criticism. And
Right.
oftentimes that's how we're also giving it. We are giving it from a criticizing standpoint, from a place of judgment. Well, I think you should be doing this. No, 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 no. As soon as you insert the word I, you are not giving feedback. You are criticizing because you're judging, right? So there feedback has nothing to do with you. It's about that other person and
Right.
only about that other person. So again, like I'm a big believer in paying attention to our language and the words that we speak. And so that's what I want to offer here. Start to pay attention to how you respond to people. Even like I notice sometimes, like with my son, he might ask me something, or let's say he's in a bit of a mood, and then I might reply back in the same type of demeanor that he has. Like I might be a bit snippy or a bit like quick, and then I'll be like, okay, hang on a minute, that wasn't me. That was not like what this conversation deserves or he deserves, right? And so I go back and clean it up. But catching yourself in those moments, it's okay that they happen, guys. They still happen, they will happen. Catch yourself, get better, clean it up, right? I'm always about going in and cleaning the stuff up. Sometimes you'll be able to do it in the moment, and other times it might not be for days or weeks until you're like, oh my, wow, okay. I'm going to lovingly forgive myself and then go
Right.
back and clean that up with that other person.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
where the perpetuating the energy comes in.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and same with somebody comes to us, and are we going to we get started in whatever it is, because it can be easy if somebody brings you their problem, their misery. It is easy to sometimes jump in because you see all of the pain they're going in. But that
Mm,
doesn't mean you can't go, excuse me, step back and go, let me really step back from it and take a look at it so I can stop perpetuating this energy so that I can be a support to the other person, or vice versa. If you're going to somebody, you're sharing all this stuff, and then you notice, hey, I'm I'm really saying this stuff and I'm looking to them for validation. Go, oh, what is it that I was trying to get from them
Hmm.
to help me with this thing that I shared? Why do I want this validation? What's really underneath it?
Right. And usually it's what you're not giving to yourself.
Yes.
Got nothing to do, surprise. It's got nothing to do with anybody else. It's always to do with us and what we are not allowing ourselves to experience, feel, or have
Right.
or be. And so, talking about the perpetuating the energy thing, I love it because what that brought up for me, we've talked about it a few times already, but it's like we can perpetuate an energy, we can pass the baton, right? We can pass the baton and be completely unaffected too, right? Like, we've talked about this concept before. It's like chickens clucking, like when women get together and they just gab and gossip and it's all negative and stuff. We can do that and then walk away and whatever, but we've contributed to that negativity, right? Or we can be like, hey, I don't want to tolerate this type of energy. And then the
Right.
next step further is I want to shift this energy. I might say,
Right.
hey guys, like, do we really think that this is a good use of our time? Right?
Yeah.
Like maybe we can focus on something else and try and lighten the mood. And I'm not saying that from a place of try to take over everybody's energy and heal and
Right.
fix. Like, so for all the empaths, that's not what I'm saying, right? We're not
Right.
taking on people's stuff to try and
Yeah.
clean it and then give it back. But what we're trying to do is shift the energy because we all have the power to be able to do that. And it reminds me of a quote. I don't know who it's by, surprise, but I remember the quote, and it's it may not have started with us, but it gets to end with us. Something
Yes.
like that. So it's, I think the quote comes from trauma healing in that realm of things, and maybe Peter Levine or something like that. But, anyways, we could take that a step further and just be like, hey, I may not have started this negativity. I may not have started this relay of negativity, but I want it to stop here.
Right.
Right. And I want to, like Carla was saying earlier, I want to transmute this energy, clean it up. And what I keep passing on, creating the ripple is of positivity and joy and love. Right. And the quickest way to do that, guys, is love. We're always stepping into love. Like you might be like, I have no idea what to do in this situation. And it's like, just put your hands on your heart and just come from a place of love. Right.
Right.
And I can't even really give you specific examples because it's so circumstantial, right? Every situation would be so different. But going into your heart as opposed to your head is how you take that action moving forward to be able to do that.
Right. Right. And so the examples I can think of is like we ladies can get together and complain about partners, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we do, or we complain about our job with our coworkers.
Mm.
And those are things that we continue to perpetuate, and we have that energy. When we can make a choice, and it, like we've talked about last week, it might be uncomfortable to not go with the pack. But
Hmm.
really, you set those ripples Shanda was talking about. You can be like, okay, guess what? This isn't how I want to be. I don't want to always be complaining and unhappy in
Yeah.
whatever place I'm at. I'm going to choose to shift to a more positive and look for something different to think about and talk about.
Mm. This is so beautiful. Okay. So as you're going through that, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, 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 yes. Because this is what we do. We go off, we have, say something happens with our partner, with our spouse. Okay. Something happens at home. We're like, oh my gosh, like, oh, right? We're just so irked, whatever the thing is. So we go off, we get with our girlfriends, and then we start, I'm going to call it clucking. We start clucking with them about the thing. And then they're feeding theirs, and this is what happens, and they totally get it, and all these things, and theirs is worse, or yours is worse, and we're doing all this, right? This ridiculous dance. So then we top up our battery and we're like, we're charged up. They charged us up with all this negative energy. Yeah. Like this, that is not fair. It's not right. This needs to change. And we're totally charged. Then we go back to our partner with this full battery, charged up, and recreate the same things over and over and over. When what we could do is turn to our partner and have a conversation with them so that we can actually come to a resolve so that we actually clean it up and fix it, heal it, and move forward with better experiences from then on out. Not easy, but simple.
Right.
Simple,
Right.
not easy.
And that's why they call it commiserating.
Yes.
Co and misery. Like
Yes.
we've been talking about, instead of like honest communication. And often if ladies assume what our spouse is thinking, our partner's thinking, and so we're already in that, I know what he's thinking, and then we go to our friend and they'll back us up. Instead of having, like Shanda said, that conversation, simple, not necessarily easy, but it's simple to just go and be honest and vulnerable and say, not say you, that's a big thing. Any of you that have studied some communication, don't start with you. You make me feel, by the way, only we make ourselves feel anything, but really have this honest, non-judgmental conversation with our spouse about where we are, what we see, so that you can see. I am sure they see something totally different than you do.
Likely.
And you can share. And instead of being in the misery that continues to perpetuate, you can be like, okay, listen, let's talk about this and let's find some sort of solution to what's going on.
Yeah. And even like, so having a full conversation that's a big step. It totally is a big step. And not everybody's going to be in that place at the beginning. And what I want to offer is that we can simply ask for clarification.
Yeah.
Like maybe they said something and you took it the wrong way because you're in your own experience. Maybe you had a bad day. And so anything anybody says to you is going to be like misconstrued, right? Like you're going to skew it and you're going to take it as you feel because we see the world as we are, not as the world is. Okay? So that's the one thing. So just simply asking for clarification like I'm sorry, what did you mean by that? And
Yeah.
and from a place of curiosity, again, not judgment, not like what did you mean by that? But like
Right.
what did you mean? What was the intention, right? And
Right.
just asking simple clarifying questions is super supportive. And it's like kind of allowing yourself to get used to asking because asking is uncomfortable, right? It's not confrontational, but it's being vulnerable. That's what it is. We have to be vulnerable to ask a question, right? It's like if you think back to school years, we're always encouraged to ask questions, but a lot of people don't ask because they don't want to feel stupid. And it's like, well, that's the whole purpose of asking the question is to clarify the thing for you. So if you don't ask your question, you're not going to get the clarification to get the information you need to move forward in the best way possible.
Right.
Boom. I just solved school. I'm just kidding.
Right. And we don't want to ask question why, because we don't want to be judged by the other person, but
That's
really we're
right.
just judging ourselves.
Yeah, it's
You judge
us.
yourself. I'm gonna look stupid.
Yeah.
So know that, like, okay, it feels uncomfortable. That's because I'm judging myself, but that's okay because I want to move forward.
Yeah. It's like the risk versus the payoff.
Yeah.
The risk is they then might take it the wrong way. But is that risk worth getting through the challenge with that person to get to the other side of it? I would say, heck yeah, every time. Because you can then provide clarity. And then
Right.
they can provide clarity. And then you can provide clarity. So it's like, okay, well, that doesn't sound so bad, right? It doesn't have to escalate, right? But it does come down to who are you being in the conversation? Are you trying to be somebody who's right? Are you trying to be the person that needs the validation that you're the victim and whatever else, or that they did you wrong and so on and so forth? Because if that's the come from, it's not going to go anywhere good. Okay. But if you're coming to that conversation looking to gain that clarity from a place of being authentic, wanting the healing so that you can grow the intimacy, develop the intimacy into a deeper level with that person, then yeah, like by all means, please like ask those questions and again, learn the lesson to move forward so that it doesn't keep happening over and over again.
Right. And remember, our perceptions come from our experiences, mostly from childhood. And so one thing that Shanda and I learned in leadership is you can be right or you can be happy. So if you come
Mm-hmm.
into it for clarification, you're setting yourself up for clearing the energy instead of perpetuating it and being unhappy because it just grows and grows and grows.
Yeah.
And that's wanting to stay in the misery, even though that's not what we consciously think we're doing.
Right. Yeah. So I think the intention behind your action says it all. If
Yeah.
your intention is to be right, well, we know where that's going to lead. But if your intention is to move forward and being unattached to what that might look like, then we're getting somewhere. We'll make progress. We'll move it forward.
Right. And
Yeah.
as we say time and time again, you never know what the outcome is. We tell ourselves it's going to be a certain way because that's our belief, but most of the time it's way better than we ever thought. And then
Yeah.
we're like, oh wow. Oh wow. So just, really pay attention to what are you putting the energy into? Like Shanda
Mm,
was saying, like, are you putting it into growing that others? And we're not saying to try and solve it for everybody. Because that's not the way. But what's going on with me? How can I be honest, open, and vulnerable with my partner and with my friends that I can trust? And what am I looking for in our relationships? Am I looking for validation and staying where I'm
mm,
at, or am I looking for growth and true, deep connection?
that's right. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Um, it reminds me of the quote, be the change you wish to see in the world, right? So it's up to us. It's literally up to us to change the world, each and every single person individually. You can change your world, but it starts with you. So take it on. Let's go. Who's in?
Exactly. Yeah. Who wants to ripple out and just make a difference in this world?
That's right.
Is there any kind of advice or anything that you want to give our listeners?
I think
Anything?
I just finished with exactly how I wanted to finish with that quote. Just it starts with you. So create that change and eventually you'll see the compound effect of that change ripple out into your world and into the people around you.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. So we are going to let you all go. Remember, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe so you can keep getting our conversations as we share our knowledge, our experience, our tools with you. And if you think somebody will benefit from our conversations, share it with them.
Mm.
Bye bye for now.